Which NFL teams am I most intrigued by this NFL free agency? Welcome, football fans, to another NFL free agency video. In this video, my top 10 captivating, interesting NFL teams of free agency. The teams that I'm most interested to see what they do. What's their strategy? Who are they going to sign? How are they going to address their needs? Gronk, spike the like button. Let me know in the comments which team you are most captivated by this free agency. And let me know what your favorite team should be doing this off season. Let's jump into it. The 10 teams that I can't wait to see what they're going to do. Let's start it off with, at number 10, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys are inside a top 10 most interesting teams in free agency. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? Like, we don't see the Cowboys in this top 10 very often. We don't see the Cowboys talked about in free agency every year. And it feels like in recent seasons, they haven't been that interesting in the offseason because they haven't had a lot of money to spend. They've spent all their money on CeeDee Lamb, extending their own players, Dak Prescott. But this year, they have real money to spend. They're not at the absolute bottom of the NFL in terms of the ability to spend money and have cap space to spend. And this year, more than most years, they're coming off a year where they were not a very good team. They were not a playoff team. They switched head coaches, right? From Mike McCarthy to Schottenheimer. They didn't just win 12 games and lose another playoff game and feel like they can stay the same. No. The Dallas Cowboys this offseason should have new ideas about what it means to be the Dallas Cowboys. They should be looking to elevate. They should be looking to reinvent, right? And Dallas has plenty of needs. This is the worst Dallas roster, I believe, in a few years. They have needs at wide receiver, right? Who is going to complement CeeDee Lamb in 2025? Will they go out and get a Stephon Diggs, get a Cooper Kupp, bring in a veteran receiver presence for Dak Prescott? They have questions on the offensive line. They have young pieces at left tackle, at center. But right tackle's inconsistent, right? We know that Zach Martin has retired. So, okay, what are they going to do at right guard? Do they have something there already in place, or do they feel like they could address that in the draft? Will they address that in free agency? There's plenty of right guards available, especially veteran right guards, if they want a quick fix. Running back. Is Rico Dowdle the guy for them for the future? Are they going to extend him? Is he going to be their feature back moving forward? Or do they feel like they could go out and sign somebody like Najee Harris? Or maybe Aaron Jones, who's from Texas? Or maybe they feel like they could combine multiple running backs, maybe draft a running back. So we're going to learn about that. The defensive line, who's going to complement Micah Parsons? They extended a Diggy, but who are the other pieces of that defensive line? Are they going to bring back DeMarcus Lawrence? Are they not going to bring back DeMarcus Lawrence? At linebacker, they have big needs at linebacker. Eric Kendricks is a free agent. Who will replace him? Will they upgrade that spot? There's plenty of linebackers available, like Nick Bolton could be a target for them. The secondary, right? They've got a new defensive coordinator. Matt Eberflus is the new defensive mind, not Zimmer, not Quinn. It's going to look different. He's going to want different types of players, including the linebacker position. Nickel corner is also a spot that they could look to, as Jordan Lewis is a free agent. So there's a lot of different spots on their roster that you look and you say, Dallas has enough money to fix this. Dallas has enough money to reinvent. Will they do it this offseason? I'm looking forward to seeing if Jerry Jones is aggressive because he's been selling this aggression for years, but it hasn't really come true. At number 9, the Houston Texans. We're staying in the state of Texas here. And the biggest reason I'm captivated by the Texans this offseason is the offensive line. Can they fix the offensive line? Because I feel like the biggest flaw out of all the playoff teams that we saw in 2024 was the Texans on the offensive line. It was an absolute disaster last year. They couldn't block a single soul, right? And that really messed with CJ Stroud. That really messed with the development of their quarterback. And that really hurt their chances of going to the Super Bowl and winning the AFC. That is a team last year that if they had an offensive line with their defense, they could have been a pretty compelling team. They could have been a contender for real. But they didn't have it. So, yeah, you got Laramie Tunsil. But, I mean, it feels like you have a need at every single other offensive line spot. So I'm really interested. Now that they've released Shaq Mason, I'm interested to see, Nick Caserio, how are you going to fix this in the draft through free agency? Where's the money going to go? Is it going to go to the interior because there's more options there, right? Are you going to fix your guards in free agency? Or who do you think's really going to stick around on that unit right now? Is Titus Howard going to be a guard? Is he going to be your right tackle, right? Do you like Fisher? Do you not like Fisher? Which one of your guards do you think is going to be something that you can work with? Or are there none, right? So there's questions there. They might have to sign 4 linemen in free agency. I mean, for real. It was that bad. And then you look at some of the other positions where their defense is already awesome, but they could use a defensive tackle, right? They could definitely use one, especially because they have a couple free agents at that spot, including their 2 starters from last year. Safety is a position where Jimmy Ward was often banged up. Jalen Petrie at nickel was banged up near the end of the year. They could use a little depth in the secondary, whether it be a third corner or a third safety. I think they should definitely take a look at that. I also feel like really wide receiver is still kind of up in the air when it comes to, okay, what's Tank Dell's future? They brought in Christian Kirk to complement Nico Collins. I already like that. Joe Mixon's still there. Okay, but will we need another receiver? Or maybe we want to bring in another tight end, maybe to have more multi-dimensional formation usage in our offense, right? I really feel like the Texans, when you think about their roster and their construction, it's going to be a ton of money spent on the O-line, a little bit of tweak to the defense, and honestly, they are right there with the contenders, which is why they're so fascinating entering this offseason and this free agency. At number 8, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are real interesting because they've kind of made their decision. T. Higgins over Trey Hendrickson. But they could always go back on that decision. If they feel like, hey, we want to sign Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins is going to get us something better draft capital, we could flip T. Higgins for draft capital. But okay, if we're going to get rid of Trey Hendrickson, what's that going to look like? What are we getting in return? Like a 3rd round pick? How are we going to use that 3rd round pick? How are we now going to use the cap space that we do have to fix the rest of our defense? Now we've lost the leading sacker in the NFL. Are we now going to use all our money to fix the defense because we still got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow and Chase Brown, but we still need to also fix the interior offensive line? So how will they look to that, right? Like, will they choose to build the offensive line through the draft? Will they choose to build the defensive line through the draft? Which area are they going to address in free agency? Which area are they going to address in the draft? They've got a new defensive coordinator. They still need needs in terms of cornerback. They could even use safeties. It feels like they definitely need a defensive line, like complete reclamation. Like they need D tackles. They need edge rushers. Sam Hubbard retired. Trey Hendrickson might be traded. Like it's a real problem for Cincinnati. And this is a team with Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase, this offense from last year. They're expected to be a contender. But looking at it right now, yeah, they've got money, but it's going to be really hard for them to upgrade this roster in free agency to become a contender. So I'm really intrigued to see how they make this work, how they go about it, what they feel like is the best way to spend this capital, and where they should be really building their team, right? Do they think they can get away with a weaker offensive line because they have Joe Burrow and they've shown success with a weaker offensive line, and maybe they'll spend as much capital as possible on the defense? We'll see, because they've chose the receiver position over the offensive line. They chose receiver over pass rush. Okay, so the Bengals are really interesting from the standpoint of trying to get Joe Burrow and the Bengals back to the playoffs and trying to have a well-rounded, well-constructed roster instead of just an offense. Okay, so that's why I have them at number 8. At number 7, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are captivating from the standpoint of, can they get over the top? The Bills are a team that despite being in my division, the Patriots division, the AFC East, I'm really intrigued to see if they can get over the top, and I'd be rooting for them to do it. right? I want Josh Allen to get that Super Bowl ring. I want this franchise to eventually win one Super Bowl. Like, their fan base deserves it. The Bills Mafia deserves it, especially because they just Gronk spiked the like button, right? But also, you're looking at this team, and they have a lot of their starters returning. A lot of their key players are intact. They're basically going to be without Rasul Douglas, Amari Cooper. Those guys are going to free agency. But there's not many others, right? They've got James Cook. They've got their 2 tight ends in Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. They just extended Shakir, right? They've got Coleman for the future at wide receiver. All these other guys, Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown is signed. Their entire offensive line is intact. Their defensive line from last year is intact unless they cut somebody. Their linebackers, Milano and Bernard, they just extended Bernard and spent some money. But they do have needs. Their biggest need being a defensive game changer, a defensive playmaker, a defensive tilt-the-field player. Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, a player like that. Can they get that one player like the Chris Jones of the Chiefs? Can they find that player, right? Can they trade for that player, acquire that player? They should go all out for that player because that's what they're missing. They're missing a game-changing player on defense. So that's what I'm most intrigued by. They could use a corner to replace Rasul Douglas. They could use upgrade at safety over Damar Hamlin. There's plenty of safeties out there to look out for, okay? There's also a wide receiver thing where could they go out and trade for a DK Metcalf? Could they go out there and sign a veteran receiver to help them out, like Hollywood Brown or something like that? How will they use their draft? Will they actually just use their draft to acquire talent in trades? That's also another way to go about this because the Bills are looking to win a Super Bowl, and young players, as much as they can break out, but they're unknowns, right? And you're wanting to win right now. The window is now. The time is now, John Cena. Buffalo Bills at number 7. At number 6, the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have a really interesting offseason coming up because they have a lot of needs and they're not in a great position financially either. They're not in a horrible position, but they have a lot of needs. Their offensive line, to begin with, left tackle is a huge problem. They need to figure that out. And if they can't outbid the Patriots or whichever team for Ronnie Stanley, they're going to be desperate, okay? Left guard, they just traded Joe Thuney, one of their best players, right? Arguably their best player last year on offense. They traded him. So left guard is a problem. I don't think they want Caliendo being the guy next year. I mean, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2, whatever it may be, like Worthy and Rice are a nice foundation, but they could use another receiver because the rest of them are all free agents. Running back was kind of not great last year. Like Kareem Hunt is maybe going to come back, maybe not, but he's getting older and he's not that explosive anymore. They could use a compliment to Isaiah Pacheco if Pacheco is even the guy anymore. Like, so running back is kind of one of those under the radar needs, but left tackle, left guard is absolutely huge for them. And we've seen them go out there and pursue those players in the past. So I'm intrigued to see how they go about it. Defensively, Wharton's a free agent. Their defensive tackle situation is pretty desperate. Like 3 of them are free agents. So the guy beside Chris Jones is going to be a big signing. Who did they decide to go with there? Did they try to get one of their own back? Or did they try to go out and get another veteran? Could they find another edge rusher? Because George Karlaftis had nobody on the other side of him to take pressure off of him. So the defensive line and the offensive line are extremely flawed in Kansas City. Outside of Karlaftis and Chris Jones, they need 2 real starters on the defensive line. And then outside of their right guard, Trey Smith, who they just signed to an incredible franchise tag, and Creed Humphrey, they're a little spotty on the O-line, right? Their secondary is pretty much intact, but Justin Reed's a free agent, and their linebacking core is pretty good, but Nick Bolton's a free agent. So where do they prioritize this money? Are they willing to let go of Justin Reed and Nick Bolton in order to sign a D tackle and a left tackle? Or what are they going to do? So I think the Chiefs are really in an interesting spot because this could be a make or break offseason for their dynasty, so to speak, for the extension of being in the AFC Championship every single year. Okay, so at number 6, the Chiefs. At number 5, the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are interesting because they have a lot of money. Despite being a really good team last year, they have a lot of needs. And I think they're going to be aggressive. So that's why they're in the top 5. They've already addressed wide receiver with Deebo Samuel. Could they address wide receiver again? De'Ami Brown's a free agent, so wide receiver 3 is up in the air there. Tight end with Zach Ertz is also up in the air. Will they retain him? The offensive line could use subtle improvement on the interior. Maybe they draft that. Maybe they don't. Maybe they go for a veteran at the guard position. Maybe they shock the world and sign a running back, because that could be a little bit of an upgradable spot. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with the defense, what they do to address the pass rush. Jonathan Allen is now gone. Edge rush is kind of up in the air. Okay, are they going to be a team to trade for Trey Hendrickson? Right? Are they going to sign a Khalil Mack? Are they going to sign a Josh Sweat? Edge is a real interesting position for them. Linebacker, they're good. Wagner came back with Luvu, so they should be fine. Safety, Jeremy Chin's a free agent. Corner, they need 1 or 2. So the Commanders have plenty of money and still plenty of needs, especially defensively. Last year, they were a top 5 offense in football. Now it's about complementing the offense with a sustainable, consistent defense, and that's Dan Quinn's side of the ball. So you know that they're going to be willing to spend some cash. I'm looking forward to seeing the Commanders be super aggressive this offseason. At number 4, the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are at 4 because, like the Commanders, they took positive steps forward in their progression as a franchise. Jim Harbaugh came in along with Justin Herbert and made this team a playoff team once again. And they solidified their floor as a franchise. But now it's time this offseason to take all that cash and all that salary cap. Second in the NFL in salary cap right now are the Chargers, only behind the Patriots. Okay? How do they utilize that? Can they get a number 1 receiver for Justin Herbert? I understand Ladd McConkey might be viewed as that, but he's more of a slot player, right? Can they find a perimeter playmaker? Can they trade for T. Higgins? Trade for Brandon Ayuk? Trade for DK Metcalf? Trade for somebody? Maybe somebody out of the blue, Tyreek Hill. Or could they sign somebody to complement a Ladd McConkey, like a Hollywood Brown, or like DeAndre Hopkins, just throwing out random names, Amari Cooper? Can they go out there and sign some different receivers to upgrade this receiving room, which was terrible? I mean, against the Texans, they could not separate. The interior offensive line was also a problem for them. All of their flaws in the roster last year was indicated through that game alone. The interior offensive line gave up so much pressure. Their tackle situation is good, but they need guards, they need centers. So look out for money to be spent on offense, money to be spent at wide receiver, money to be spent at guard, money to be spent at center. And then you look at defense. Corner is a position of need. Interior defensive line is a position of need. I think they should retain some of their own on the interior defensive line. They got rid of Joey Bosa, so will they go after an edge rusher? But like I said, they have a lot of money, and now we're going to see a first full offseason of a Jim Harbaugh approach, a Jim Harbaugh team, a Jim Harbaugh imprint, right? We're going to see, where does he really want to build this team up? Because now he's got a full season under his belt of understanding his personnel, understanding the NFL, understanding their schemes, what they want to be, and now it's all about executing it with the cash. So at number 4, I've got the Chargers. Looking forward to seeing if they can build around Herbert for 2025. At number 3, the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers, on one hand, are a team that's one of the older rosters in football, and they're also one of the more competitive, contending teams from season to season in the NFL and in the NFC, right? We've seen them go to 4 NFC championships under Kyle Shanahan, and it still feels like last year, what went wrong was injuries. So if they're back and healthy, they'll be competitive in the NFC, right? But on the other hand, they maybe have more holes than we've seen in recent years. They've traded Deebo Samuel, okay? Brandon Ayuk, that idea of trading him is lurking. So the possibility of a big splash tweet from Adam Schefter saying, the Niners have traded Brandon Ayuk to the New England Patriots for a second-round pick, that exists in the back of your mind, right? That's there. So would they replace him with a Devontae Adams? Would they go out and sign an Amari Cooper if Brandon Ayuk ends up leaving? You know what I'm saying? I'm just throwing that out there, right? The offensive line is a big area where I think they could spend some money. Center is really interesting. I think that's a big point of emphasis for them this offseason. Left guard, Aaron Banks is a free agent. They could use a left guard. They're good at left tackle for now. They're good at right guard for sure for a long time. And at right tackle, they're okay. I think center and left guard are big points of cash, okay? Defensively, they need to help Nick Bosa. Defensive tackle alongside Malik Collins could use improvement. Another guy to rotate with Leonard Floyd could also help. Will they retain some of their own players that have been fundamental to their success? Guys like Dre Greenlaw, guys like Hufanga. Will those guys be back or will they walk? Those are questions, right? They let go of Javon Hargrave. Charvarius Ward's probably saying goodbye. Will they sign another corner? Will Robert Saleh help them influence some former Jets to their team? Will he help influence some defenders to their team? Will the Niners be aggressive trading for players? What will they do with their cap space? Because it's a little murky with the whole Brock Purdy thing. The extension hangs over the heads of the 49ers, but they still want to be ultra competitive. So they are very interesting to me. At number 2, the Las Vegas Raiders. You got my attention. I mean, they were for sure number 2 before the quarterback thing because they had an entire depth chart full of green on our lads, which means these players are available in free agency. They had basically a free slate, a fresh slate of players. So they could have reconstructed and they still can redo their entire team, especially on defense. Now they've made the bold move of going after Geno Smith, and I love it. I've talked about it. I think Geno's underrated. I think he's a good fit for the Raiders moving forward for their culture, and I think he's going to be Pete Carroll's boy to help reconstruct the Raiders, okay? But he needs help. The offensive line, I don't think they really need to do anything there. I feel like they've got an underrated young right tackle, a stud veteran left tackle, a young second-round center in Jackson Powers-Johnson that will enter into the full starting role this year. Their guards are pretty solid, too. They just signed Alex Kappa. They need a running back. They need a playmaker in the backfield for Chip Kelly that can pass catch, that can run, that can be explosive, okay? They need a wide receiver 1. Will that happen at 6th overall? Will that happen in free agency? Will they trade for somebody like DK Metcalf, a former Pete Carroll player? What will they do at wide receiver 1? Because they've got a wide receiver 2. They've got an awesome tight end. They could use another receiver, okay? And then on defense, they have pretty much every need, no demand. They could use a defensive tackle beside Christian Wilkins, and hopefully he stays healthy the whole year. Will they bring back Malcolm Kuntz, who's been a good player for them, but was injured last year? He would really be nice to rotate with Tyree Wilson, okay? Linebacker, Spillane's been a great captain for them. Will they bring him back or not? Will they go in a different direction, maybe with more athletic linebackers in coverage for Pete Carroll? We'll see, but they have multiple linebackers that they need to address. Both of them are free agents, so they need multiple starters at that spot. Multiple safeties are free agents. They need multiple starters at safety. They need multiple starters at corner. Jack Jones is there, but everyone else is a free agent. This entire defense is in the green. Linebackers, D-tackle, corner, safety. They need players. So that is intriguing because they're going to be signing people left and right, and they have a ton of cap space. They have, they're right up there. I know they spend a lot now on Geno, like 25 mil, but now you've got Geno, which captivates me even more because now I know the level of quarterback you're dealing with. You have a pretty good quarterback. So now all of a sudden you're actually interesting, right? You took your team from bottom of the barrel bum team to, okay, could they be a playoff team if they make the right moves? They've got a good coaching staff, a solidified good head coach. Right now they've got a little bit of an aging quarterback, but he can still play. Now they want to feel like they can be competitive and change this culture right away. So that's where I'm really interested to see what they do this offseason. They're really interesting. And at number 1, the New England Patriots, of course. The Patriots are the most interesting team this free agency. They have the most cap space among every team in the NFL. They have $20 million more than any team in the NFL this offseason. And they have a lot of marquee needs. Yeah, they have Mike Vrabel and they have Drake May. They have the quarterback and the coach, which is fundamental, right? But other than Christian Gonzalez, do we really feel confident in maybe Hunter Henry, Michael Onwenu? There's like 3 or 4 guys. Do we really feel confident about any other player on the roster that is going to be starting? Keon White, there's very few, right? Very few is my point. They need wide receiver 1 and maybe wide receiver 2. $120 million can get it done this offseason if they really want to. They need left tackle and they need right tackle. How often does a team need wide receiver 1, left tackle, and right tackle in the same offseason? This is a Madden offseason for the Patriots, okay? And even some fans want a running back. I don't agree with that. Maybe that will be the draft. Defensively, they need a pass rush. They need defensive tackle, maybe, beside Christian Barmore. Maybe they go after Milton Williams. That's heavily rumored. They need an edge rusher. Maybe they go after Josh Sweat. Maybe they trade for somebody. I don't know. Maybe they sign Harold Landry, a former Titan. They need edge rushers, right? So they need a pass rush. They need a receiver. They need offensive linemen. They had the worst offensive line in the league. They've got a ton of cap space, though. And they've got a young quarterback to where if you give them a receiver, if you give them a left tackle, if you have half a defense and you've got Mike Vrabel coaching the team, all of a sudden overnight they're a good team because they've got a quarterback that a lot of people believe has a bright future as soon as this year. So that's where the Patriots become absolutely captivating. It's like not only are they my favorite team, but for the common fan, they're a former, dynasty, great franchise, best franchise, most popular franchise the last 25 years. They're obviously marquee, right? It's more so like, can they get back to that? That's what's so captivating about this offseason for the Patriots. So that is my list of 10 most interesting teams in free agency. Thank you guys for watching. Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more. And join the Discord. Link in the description. We're looking to add some members to the Discord, guys. Join the Discord community for all. It's free. For all of my updates, my videos, everything else, and some good football chat. Peace.